love you.
Oh, Ed Earl, I've loved you since I was 16 years old. And I will always...
Dolly Parton has spent a lifetime keeping her secrets tucked behind a smile. She's the queen of country, beloved for her big voice, even bigger heart, and a charm that never fades. But now, at 79 years old, Dolly just shared something that fans had only guessed at for decades, and it has to do with one man she never quite got over. Burt Reynolds was everything Dolly wasn't supposed to want. Bold, brash, unpredictable. But from the moment they met, something clicked. And while they always said they were just friends, their story has haunted fans for over 40 years. Did they love each other in secret? Did they miss their moment? Or did fame, timing, and loyalty force them to bury something real? At 79, Dolly finally let her guard down, and what she revealed about Burt left everyone stunned. Because it wasn't a romantic confession. Not exactly. It was something much sadder. The year was 1982. Dolly Parton was already a superstar in the music world, with crossover hits like Jolene and 9 to 5 dominating the charts. She was funny, fearless, and known for stealing every show she walked into, even the ones she wasn't invited to. Burt Reynolds, on the other hand, was Hollywood royalty. He had that swagger, that effortless grin, and a reputation for turning heads the second he entered a room. Between Smokey and the Bandit and Deliverance, Burt was on top of the world, and almost impossible to resist. So when Paramount Pictures cast Dolly and Burt together in the best Little Whorehouse in Texas, sparks weren't just expected, they were inevitable. From the very first press junket, the chemistry was undeniable. Interviews turned into flirtation. Photographers couldn't get enough of their glances, their laughter, the way Burt looked at her like she was the only woman in the room. Even Dolly, married since 1966 to the famously private Carl Dean, couldn't hide the connection. "We just clicked," she said in an interview. "It was like we'd known each other in another life." But she always added the same line, "We were never romantic." Still, the public wasn't convinced. Tabloids ran wild. Headlines shouted things like, "Dolly and Burt, Hollywood's hottest secret romance," and "Too much chemistry to be just friends." Neither of them denied the rumors outright, but they didn't confirm them either. And fans noticed something strange. Despite the massive success of the film, Dolly and Burt never made another movie together. It was as if something had come too close to the surface and had to be buried again. But that didn't stop the questions. Years passed. Dolly stayed with Carl Dean. Burt moved through high-profile relationships. Lonnie Anderson, Sally Field, Dinah Shore, but none of them seemed to last. And yet, when either of them was asked about the one who got away, their eyes would soften. And somehow the name Dolly would always come up. In a 2010 interview, Burt was asked who his favorite co-star was. His answer? Dolly Parton. Without a doubt. He didn't stop there. "She's everything people say and more. Funny, sharp, kind, and there's a warmth to her that you don't forget. She's the kind of woman who walks into your life once and stays there." But when the interviewer asked if anything romantic ever happened between them, Burt paused. Then he smiled and said, "She was married, and I respected that." Dolly's own statements over the years echoed the same sentiment, but always with that same wistful undertone. "Burt was such a flirt," she laughed once, "but he made me feel like a woman. I always felt beautiful around him, and I never forgot that." Still, she was always firm. "We were never more than friends." But something about the way she said it, gently, carefully, left the door wide open. In fact, during an appearance on Larry King Live, she was asked directly if she ever considered having an affair with Burt. She didn't say no. Instead, she smiled, looked away and said, "Well, he never asked." And for a woman who's known for dodging questions with grace, that answer said more than 1,000 confessions ever could. There was a tension there, a longing, not for scandal but for a chance that never came. Maybe it was timing, maybe it was loyalty, or maybe it was fear that crossing the line would destroy the very thing that made their bond so special. Whatever it was, neither of them took that step. And yet, everyone around them knew. There was something unspoken between Dolly and Burt, something that never really faded. As the years went on, Dolly and Burt each became icons in their own right, legends whose names needed no introduction. But in quieter moments, when the cameras weren't demanding a performance, the truth started to slip through. In 2012, during a reflective sit-down interview, Burt was asked what he regretted most in life. His answer caught everyone off guard. "I've had a lot of loves," he said, his voice slower than it used to be, but still filled with that southern charm. "Some of them I lost, some of them I never truly had. Dolly Parton, she was one I never had, and that's a shame." He paused, looked down, and added softly, "She was married, always out of reach, but she was a bright light in my life. I adored her." It wasn't a grand declaration. It was almost whispered, but it felt like the kind of thing you only say when you know time is running out. Around the same time, Dolly was being asked similar questions, often during interviews where the topic turned to her legacy or the people who made an impression on her. She didn't get emotional often, but Burt's name always seemed to bring out a softness, a tilt of her head, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "There was always something special about Burt," she told one reporter. "He made me laugh. He made me feel safe. He made me feel like a woman, and he never crossed the line, never made me uncomfortable. He was just good." And yet, beneath all the compliments and sweet recollections, there was a shadow. Not resentment, not sadness, regret. Dolly never said it outright, but fans noticed the pattern. When asked about other men, Dolly was quick to dismiss rumors. With Burt, she chose her words more carefully. In 2016, she was asked if she had ever fallen for someone she couldn't have. She chuckled at first. Then she said, "Sometimes love is timing, and sometimes the timing just ain't right." The interviewer didn't press her. They didn't need to, because by then, everyone could see it. Dolly and Burt had danced around something real for decades, something they both felt, but never claimed. By the time Burt entered his 70s, life had started to wear on him. His health was failing. He'd had heart surgery in 2010, and in the years that followed, his weight fluctuated, his mobility declined, and the man who had once been the epitome of confidence now seemed quieter, more reflective, and at times lonely. Financial troubles compounded the physical ones. Burt had filed for bankruptcy in the 90s after a string of bad investments and an expensive divorce. He sold off personal memorabilia, including many mementos from his films, just to keep his Florida estate afloat. Still, he never complained. Not publicly, but those close to him said there were days when he was overwhelmed by what had been lost, his stardom, his strength, and maybe something else too, something more personal. During this period, Dolly was thriving. Still touring, still releasing music, still beloved by fans around the world. But those who knew her said she always checked in, quietly, respectfully, on the people who had once been part of her journey. One Nashville insider claimed Dolly had sent Burt a private letter in 2017, not long before his death. "It wasn't romantic," the source said. "It was kind, just Dolly being Dolly, letting him know he was loved." No one ever confirmed the letter. Dolly never mentioned it publicly. But Burt's longtime assistant told Vanity Fair that Burt had received something from her. Handwritten, folded carefully, and kept in the top drawer of his bedroom dresser. Whatever it said, he never threw it away. Then, in September 2018, the news broke. Burt Reynolds had passed away from a heart attack. He was 82. The tributes poured in. Fans mourned. Co-stars shared stories. Hollywood remembered him as a pioneer, a sex symbol, a showman with unmatched magnetism. And then, there was Dolly. Her statement came just hours after the announcement. It was short, almost too short. "Oh, how sad I am today. Burt and I had a very special bond. I'll always remember the laughs we shared." And that was it. No interviews, no long-winded tributes, no stories from the set, just a sentence and silence. To some, it seemed like an afterthought, but to Dolly's fans, those who had followed her closely for years, it felt like something deeper. Because Dolly doesn't grieve loudly. She doesn't perform her pain for the world. She tucks it away, behind a rhinestone smile, behind jokes, behind songs, behind a carefully constructed image that's taken her a lifetime to build. But in those 21 words, there was something raw, something unresolved. She called it a special bond, and she said she'd always remember the laughter. But what she didn't say was what hurt the most. There was no mention of what could have been. No hint at the almost they had danced around for decades. Just grief. Quiet, private grief. And to her fans, that said everything. For years after Burt's passing, Dolly remained quiet. She spoke of him in passing, always with affection, but never with depth. Never the full truth. Until now. In a recent sit-down interview marking her 79th birthday, Dolly was asked a series of reflective questions. About her career, her life, her regrets. And then came the question, is there anyone you wish you'd told how you really felt? Dolly paused. She didn't say a name, but she smiled, softly, sadly, and looked away for just a moment. Then she said, sometimes the people who understand your soul come along at the wrong time. The interviewer waited. Dolly didn't elaborate. She didn't need to, because for anyone who's followed her story, who's seen the glances, the interviews, the quiet spaces between the words, it was clear who she meant. And then, just weeks later, at another event, Dolly was asked again, this time more directly, about her favorite co-star. She didn't hesitate. Burt. Why? The interviewer asked. And this time Dolly didn't dodge. Because he made me feel like a woman. Not a singer. Not a performer. Just a woman. And he never had to touch me to do that. There was a flicker in her eyes. Grief or nostalgia, or both. And then she added one more line. One that broke hearts across the internet. I think we both knew. We missed our chance. And maybe that's why it's lasted this long, in memory. No scandal. No secret affair. No confessions of a love lost in the dark. Just honesty. Quiet, painful honesty. And for Dolly, who spent a lifetime being upbeat, optimistic, and composed. It was the closest she's ever come to saying what so many fans already believed. That there was a man she loved. A man she never had. And a goodbye she never truly got to say. Some love stories are never written in full. They drift through moments, glances, unfinished conversations, and sometimes silence. That's what Dolly and Burt had. Not a romance, but something stronger than friendship. More intimate than flirtation. A connection that never asked to be explained. And now, with Burt gone, and Dolly nearing 80, that story has taken on new weight. In a world obsessed with flashy relationships and public declarations, theirs was different. Theirs was made up of quiet loyalty, deep admiration, and the kind of affection that doesn't fade when the spotlight does. Dolly has never said she loved Burt, and maybe she never had to, because love doesn't always need to be shouted. Sometimes, it's what's left unsaid that echoes the loudest. And for the millions of fans who watched the best Little Whorehouse in Texas, who saw the way he looked at her and the way she smiled back, the ending was always obvious. They loved each other, maybe not in the way Hollywood would have wanted, but in the way real people do, imperfectly, silently, forever. At 79, Dolly Parton has nothing left to prove. She's a legend, an icon, a survivor, but in this rare, vulnerable moment, she reminded the world that even legends have regrets. Even icons carry unspoken stories, and hers was about a man who made her laugh, a man who made her feel seen, a man who never crossed the line, but who might have crossed her heart. Burt Reynolds didn't need to kiss Dolly to leave a mark on her life, and Dolly didn't need to say his name for the world to know what he meant to her. Some love stories don't play out on screen. They play out in memory, and this one, it'll stay with us just like it stayed with her. For more of the latest news, check out this video.